Welcome to Fort Nelson. We have a very special day here today, the new installation of Standing with Giants. I'm Sarah Farmer and I'm joined today by Steve Humphrey. Steve, a very special occasion for us to be given an insight into.
It is, and I think you get that sense when you walk into Fort Nelson and you see these 1,475 silhouettes. You just get that feeling of emotion going through you. You start reflecting on what happened back on the 6th of June 1944, the sacrifice of a generation. And then you start looking at the details and then you realise that what an enterprise it was, and it involved so many soldiers, sailors, aircrew, resistance fighters and all the rest of it. It really was something that, the world has never seen the like since. It was the biggest ever maritime military operation in history.
And here we are with a snapshot of that before us. We have those 1,475 servicemen, an illustration of each of those different humans, a reminder of those lives that were lost under British command on D-Day itself. And that was just the beginning, Steve.
Yes, it was. And of course, we have to remember that the silhouettes here represent the 1,475 members of the armed forces who were under British command. Because on D-Day itself, of course, there were lots of soldiers from, the United States and other countries. So, in fact, new research has just come up with a fairly new figure for the total number of deaths on D-Day itself, and that is 4,426. So you get an idea of what the death toll was on that one day, in that 24-hour period. But then you start looking at the death toll on both sides in the battle for Normandy, which raged for several months after D-Day. 100,000 military personnel from the Allies and the Axis forces were killed, and along with them 20,000 French civilians. So you get an idea of the scale of what went on.
So this becomes a moment for people to remember and reflect and just spend a little bit of time thinking back into history and maybe not having an immediate connection themselves, but starting to process what other people went through.
Yeah, and you look at these silhouettes, and they are in what I described, I think you described it as well, as being in reflective mood. They're looking down slightly. You get the feeling this is after the battle. They're thinking about what has taken place. They're thinking about their lost comrades, the people who've been injured. They're beginning to process the experiences they've had, perhaps the near-death experiences. And it gives you that sense that this really was something which was just so enormous. It was an entire chapter in history, and it was a day that started to change the world.
And so we'll just give a little bit of background about where these have come from then. The Standing with Giants installation. Each single cut-out figure has been hand-cut and is individual, is unique, reflects on one of those lives that was lost under British command on D-Day itself. They've been made from old bits of signage, so they are recycled, upcycled materials, painted in that midnight black colour. And as they stand across the skyline here, it is quite an incredible sight to see them all poised in that reflective moment, looking down and just bearing the weight of what they've been through. You can't see the features, you can't see the emotion of what people are going through, but in their posture, in their body language, the weight on their shoulders, quite literally. And that day would have been immense, Steve.
It would have been. And one of the things that sort of always strikes me looking at this is that I've been in a few situations in various places in the world where, there has been conflict. I'm thinking particularly of the First Gulf War, when I was out there with British forces, and we saw sights a bit like this. I can remember once seeing a group of soldiers who had been in battle. They were coming back, and they looked a little bit like this. These are the soldiers, the sailors and the airmen that went into battle for us, members of that generation. And I'm always struck by, the ages of people who took part. A lot of those on the beaches who were manning the ships and the aircraft. You're talking about people in their late teens and their early 20s, which meant that because the war started in 1939, this was sort of a few years in, so for much of their teenage life they would have known nothing but the impact of war, and then they would have joined up, they would have been through training, they would have prepared for their part in the operation, and then we have the lucky ones, the men who survived, and they always tell us continuously, the story is not about those who survived. They always say the story is about those who gave their lives in their late teens and their early 20s, and that is what these figures represent. And members of the public are coming in here at 1 o'clock. Yep. So we've got a few minutes to go, and then we can show you the entire. It is a spectacle. I mean, one of the veterans this morning, when I was having a chat with him, he described it as being a bit theatrical, and it is. It's that wow moment.
Incredible stuff. And of course, the D-Day 80, which we had the year before last, these were all lined up in Versailles by the British Normandy Memorial, a really powerful site just above Gold Beach, where many of them would have set foot for the very first time.
Yeah, and I think that's always so poignant when you're actually at that British Normandy Memorial, looking down on the beach and thinking, it all happened here. This is where people lost their lives.
Indeed, incredibly poignant. So I'm going to see if we can bring in a couple of guests for you now. The people behind this incredible scene, this incredible moment. Come and join us. We've got Jeanette and Dan Barton. Thank you so much for being with us today. Tell us, Dan, tell me about that seed, that moment where you thought, I've got an idea.
So I made 101 silhouettes, put them on a hill above the M40 motorway, above just Oxfordshire area. And it was really the reaction from people seeing those figures, hearing them talking on their phones, oh my God, you've got to come and see this, it's amazing, and people crying, standing and crying. And moment I realised that we'd stumbled into something incredibly special and meaningful, and people do want to come and have a look at it. It's quite powerful stuff.
And you had people crumbling in your arms.
Yeah, I've had nearly 100 people crying in my arms. It's just been life-changing for me, and it's given me purpose for my life. I know what I want to be doing for the rest of my days is carrying on these installations and honouring those that gave us our freedom. But more importantly, showing maybe young people, be mindful of where your freedoms come from. That's such an important message.
And Jeanette, how can we possibly communicate that message? How does this work as connecting with that younger audience and really resonating with them?
I think families come and visit the installations, and children ask questions with their parents, and they're able to respond to them in a way that doesn't frighten them. We're obviously not pro-war. This isn't what the charity is about. It's about remembrance, remembering the fallen. And I think that's exactly what it is. We literally invite families to come. They walk around, they can touch the installation. It's very immersive, and it's really important for our younger generations to, like Dan says, to remember why we have the freedom that we have today, and that's why we're doing this, really. This is exactly why we're doing these installations.
And what kind of feedback do you get from the families who come and visit these and see them in the flesh, so to speak?
It's so overwhelming. I mean, we've got some veterans here today. We've got their families with them. We've got their chaperones. And, it kind of reminds us why we're doing this. We get lots and lots of emails from people. We get lots of images sent to us. When we're at host sites in Normandy, we have people coming up to us because we may be wearing our sort of Standing with Giants kind of hoodies and things, and people come up to us and talk to us and tell us how they feel, how they've reacted. And when we were in Stowe last year at National Trust Stowe, we had people telling us they've been to Normandy and how that kind of resonated with them, and how they had to come and find where we were displaying in the UK. And I think that's what we found with this installation. A lot of people have been telling us they've been to Normandy, they've been to Stowe, they saw our silhouettes on the M40 motorway, but they're coming again. People want to come and show their families, their friends, the installations. And each time, even though it's the same silhouettes, our 1,475 in different settings, they still have that same impact, which is incredible. And as you can see, I mean, just today with the sort of blue sky and everything, we had rain, we had rainbows, we had showers last week when we were installing, and here we are today, beautiful sunshine.
I have to say that installation in France, in Versailles, by the British Normandy Memorial was just incredible because, of course, the pillars are listing the names of the people who've lost their lives, and then we see them. We see the human forms on the hillside where they would have been moving up to make their start, to move in during that D-Day. What was it like for you to go over there and be part of that commemorative occasion?
I mean, it's incredibly. We're very honoured to be part of the commemorations, but also adding to what you were just saying about where the flowers start coming up. So when we put them in, it's on grass because the meadow's been mowed, and then the flowers come up. So the installation is continuously changing, and with the light and shade and the different weather patterns, it's always continuously creating this incredibly moving image. We are also so grateful to all the people in France that have helped us, a lot of the French and the expats, and we're making some lovely relationships with some people over in France, and we want to do this annually if we can afford to, and basically just keep moving it back to France, normally back to another UK host, back to another UK host. We've got the Harley Davidson group, owners group there, escorting us, very keen to escort us in convoy down to send the guys off back to France and bring them back home again. The French Harley Davidson group are helping us with that. And so many people are just coming together to help make this project what it is.
And by having them back on this side of the water, it's accessible to people who might not be able to make their way to Normandy.
Absolutely, and it's also the veterans as well who, the majority of our veterans, D-Day veterans, are 100 plus. So travelling over to Normandy, it's great that they can come here, they can come and see the installation. And we have 3, as I say, today who are, we've had a lovely morning with them, chatting and them telling us stories. And it's nice for them to see it in person rather than looking at pictures or photos or in a book. So it's so important that we're over back in the UK. And like Dan says, it's something we're continuing to do and we would like to do, for as long as we can, really. As a charity, we are unfunded, which makes life very, very difficult. So we don't have any grant funding. We're struggling with that at the moment. So we're very reliant on our host sites like Fort Nelson, who are paying our logistical fees to be here. Dan is a volunteer. We are a volunteer-led organisation, charity. I'm the only paid member of staff. I did 6 years probation because our trustees decided I need to receive a salary. So we do need desperately, we need staff, we need help in the admin and all that kind of thing because our project and our charity is growing.
Yeah, we're doing an awful lot around the world, actually, in France, Holland, Belgium. We've even been invited potentially to make 24 to go over to Hong Kong. These are our steel laser cut figures, are slightly different to the ones you see behind us. But we're getting inquiries from all over. It's potentially a huge project.
So the future is probably bursting at the seams. I just want to get a sense from each of you, just briefly, about the emotion that you have been through in getting these installed here and what you're expecting as people arrive through the doors in the next few minutes.
Well, this has left me personally an emotional wreck. I've shared so many sad stories with so many people. I've cried with so many people because it's rather like when someone yawns, and you start yawning. They go, I go. It's so emotional you wouldn't believe. And I think the people coming will some of that emotion they'll feel, and they'll be moved, I'm sure.
We have a lot of veterans that are our volunteers who find this very cathartic, being involved in the charity and volunteering and helping. We make all of these silhouettes by hand. They're not laser cut, they're not water jet made or anything. They are made by hand. They're physically cut out, and everybody we have coming to sort of help us, they've got an affiliation with the installation. It's not just it arrives, you put it up. It's kind of we all make it, we all create it, and so it means such a lot.
It's a piece of them as well, And we do it in that way. So we cut them out by hand so that people can be part of something that is it's meaningful, and it has this. They're really invested in it very much. Yeah.
A hugely personal touch, and each of them individual and personal. Thank you for being with us. I know we're going to come back and speak with you a little bit later on, so we will leave you to go and just soak up the last little moments. I can see the pipers are getting ready. They're coming in. I'm going to return with Steve now. Thank you very much. We can see the pipers. What are the pipers here for then, Steve?
Yes, we have breaking news. We have breaking news that the pipers are assembling on one of the embankments here, and they are going to pipe the opening of this installation to members of the public. So the doors will literally open at 1 o'clock. And also I can see just behind you that some of the D-Day veterans, 3 of them, in fact, have just been sort of wheeled into position so they can actually see this momentous event take place. So Henry Rice, Bert Courtney and Alec Penstone will be witnessing that. And that's a lovely, in a sense, connection with the events of 81 years ago and the events of today, and of course all of those gentlemen 100 years old.
Incredible. Now I'm going to ask you a little bit about the piping connection, because Mad Bill Piper?
Yes, yes.
Tell us about him. Why was he so significant? He's a character in the history books.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's significant because you might remember that one of the early operations, which actually began the day before D-Day, was the capture of the two important strategic bridges over the river and over the canal. So the famous Pegasus Bridge operation carried out by the Oxfordshire Light Infantry, who landed in gliders. And then what
on
had
the spot? Gosh, it was so close.
It was, yes, you've seen it, I've seen it, it's just absolutely amazing. And then, of course, the commandos who landed on the beach then had to march to actually relieve that position because, of course, those people who landed early on, they were being sort of hit by German counterattacks. And so the idea was that the commandos and other units were going to go up and they were then going to, in a sense, provide more manpower, more weaponry and all the rest of it. And there's the great story, in fact, one of our former colleagues' father took part in this. The commandos borrowed a white horse from a farmer so they could carry some of their heavy weapons up to where they needed to be. So, yeah, so the countdown continues. Just as the countdown happened on D-Day and those people trying to get there. And of course, the commandos, Lord Lovat, ended up apologising for being slightly late.
They do like to have military timing, precision.
They do.
Precision.
Yes.
And on the morning, with the Piper is on the beach. And
Yes.
bringing people ashore and trying to build some sense of motion and
Yeah, I think
support?
sometimes, yes. I mean, the great thing about pipes is that they're quite stirring, and that's what we're going to hear. I can see the kilted gentlemen there, all preparing to play. I think we might start to hear the pipes fairly soon.
As they
And
begin
it
to
is
get
just a
warmed up.
few minutes to go until we actually get that opening moment. And then the people will come through the gates at Fort Nelson. One of the things we're being asked to stress is that because of limited car parking here, people are being asked to book their space to come and see this. But the great thing is that this continues. This will be here until towards the end of January, so lots of time. But it might be an idea if you want to come to actually get on the website and start booking.
Absolutely. It's a huge space within, but actually the car parking is what is limiting those numbers, isn't it? But they are expecting, and they've already had many, many thousands of bookings to come and
Yes.
see this.
And the lovely thing is, you come here and then you absorb that, sort of the military heritage, because obviously this is now run by the Royal Armouries, so they've got some fantastic examples of the weaponry that was used over the years, but also the place itself, sort of built back in the 1860s when there was a fear of a French invasion here on the hilltop overlooking Portsmouth. And then you have it being used during the First World War for training of troops before they went to the Western Front. And then in the Second World War, it was a centre that was used to store ammunition. And then, of course, the great thing is that in the build-up to D-Day, if you'd actually stood on the ramparts and looked south, you would literally have seen the build-up to D-Day that was going on, and it would literally have been happening. I mean, that's the great. If you haven't been here before, just come and look at the view.
Because that view this morning, and we're very blessed with the weather. I'm not supposed to say too much in case things turn, but the weather today is just incredible. And the blue skies, the silhouettes just really pop against those blue skies behind us. And we've got the views out across the water, absolutely sparkling. And as you drive up to this location, you can see one or two of the figures as you arrive, that little teaser, if you like, of what's to come. But that's just a fragment, it's the tip of the iceberg, isn't it, of what you're about to see when you actually get into the site.
Yeah, I came here this morning, as it were, by the inland route. So I was coming up from the sort of boar hunt direction. And then you catch a glimpse, across the fields, on the ramparts, there are these figures. And it is absolutely stunning. And then you come in and you see the enormity of it.
And at the moment, there is a silence, there is a stillness. And of course, the figures will encourage people to spend a moment and have that silence and stillness. But I think it won't be too long before we start to hear that music and feel that resonance of what the meaning of the whole experience was about.
Yeah, and as you say, given the fact that, there is that, the famous piper on D-Day itself, and then, the role of pipers through the ages in British military tradition, having the pipers here today is going to be absolutely fantastic.
So they're just getting set up, and they are actually beneath the lone piper. There is a figure which represents that lone piper, So a really prominent spot for them to be that connects them back to that little bit of history in time. I'm wondering how nervous they're feeling, whether this might be something that is really rattling them or worrying them, getting ready for a big occasion.
They look like, from a distance at least of 150 yards, they look like experienced pipers. So I think any moment now they are going to start playing their bagpipes and that big bass drum. And also then the doors here at Fort Nelson will open to the public, and the first people will be able to come in and see all of these fantastic silhouettes.
That's right. There were some people already waiting as we arrived earlier today to be first in the queue, if you like, to be ready and raring to come and see these. So there is that little sense of anticipation and excitement of being some of the first in this occasion.
And I think I may have heard the first bits.
Here it comes. Incredible to hear that. A little wave of movement is starting to arrive through the parade ground, Steve. There are families.
It's lovely actually seeing the silhouettes there in the sunshine, and then I just started to see people's heads sort of bobbing around the silhouettes, and the first people have arrived here at Fort Nelson to have a look at this installation. And you can almost see with their body movements, they're almost unsure about where they can go and what they can do, but they're getting the idea that they can actually wander around and see the different perspectives.
And to be amongst them and shoulder to shoulder, if you like, that's incredibly powerful. You get that sense of they're like me, they're my size, or they're taller than me, but these are real people.
Yeah, and as you were saying before, I mean, there are 19 different designs, but they are all hand cut, so all of them are absolutely unique, which is absolutely lovely. And there's lovely stories about the people, the volunteers who have been involved in making them. Even some inmates at Bullingdon Prison, made some of them. So this project has gone far and wide. And as you were saying, here they are at Fort Nelson overlooking Portsmouth, and then the symmetry with the place where they were before at Vers-sur-Mer. in Normandy by the British Normandy Memorial. So, you know, they've come across the channel. Here they are until January. And I think we're going to have a chat with some of the people who've come to look at these. So I'm going to jump out the way and let you have a chat.
So we're going to bring in a couple of our guests this afternoon and welcome in Yvonne and Norma. Thank you so much for being with us, guys. Have you had time to soak this up, or is this just fresh eyes for you?
It's very fresh, but as soon as you walk round, I found it very moving and made me want to cry.
Yeah, very poignant. Absolutely very poignant, yes. It's more than I expected, to be honest.
What was it that brought you here for this opening day?
My friend Marie, she saw it on the BBC News and she said to me, can I source to get here? Because we come from Staffordshire. So I mentioned it to my lovely friend. She said, I'll drive you here. So that's what happened.
It's a girls' road trip then?
Yes, it is, and it's homage to my dad, who was in World War II as well.
And what was it your dad did in World
He
War II?
was in submarines.
And what does it feel like then to look at these silhouettes and find some connection to your own past?
I'm full up. You know, I can't. I'm glad I've got my sunglasses on. Yeah, because it's so moving. Seeing it on the telly is one thing. Seeing it in real life is different.
Spot on.
It brings home how many people did die and how it must have been for them running up the beaches. You know.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
And the numbers as well. How does it feel to see so many of these silhouettes?
Absolutely magnificent display. I can't believe how many they've actually got here now. We're actually in Fort Nelson. Really great. A lot of hard work's gone into all this, hasn't it?
Absolutely has, and they've been created by volunteers who've spent lots of time and attention to detail. What do you make of the team behind all of this?
Well, I wish I was one of them. Because I just think it's amazing that they give the time up and do it, you know. Because without them, we wouldn't have it, would we? You know. So I'm so pleased.
Yes. Very special. Well, thank you so much. We'll let you go and soak up a little bit more of the emotion, a little bit of that atmosphere. And I'm going to bring in a couple more guests because we've got some more people who've come in today. They're here first through the doors to see what's going on. We've got Marie and Brenda. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have you had a bit of a time just to soak up all of this?
Oh, just a bit of time, just a bit. I find it very emotional, because I was born the year before the Second World War started, and so I have some vague memories as a child, but the aftermath as well. And to see this is just totally amazing. It's choked me up.
We've just heard the music come to an end then. So how did the combination of the figures and the music and the moment, how did that strike you?
It's all very emotional, and it just sticks in my stomach and makes me ready to burst into tears.
It is an emotional occasion, isn't it?
It is emotional. And it's something that needs to be remembered all the while.
Why does that feel so important?
Because maybe we won't ever come through another one like this. And these people died we wouldn't be here.
And that's very much why the installation was brought together. They're called giants because of the enormity of what they gave. So how does it feel reflecting on that sacrifice that people made?
I always wanted to go over to Normandy to see them, so I'm just delighted they've come here so that I have eventually got the opportunity.
Have you come from far afield to visit?
I've come from the Midlands. Staffordshire we've come from. A friend has driven us down. I got blamed for instigating it, but they all jumped on the bandwagon, so to speak, and we're here. Thank you.
Someone's got to lead the way, and absolutely what an occasion to get you all here for. Thank you very much for joining us today, ladies. Go and take some time and spend some time in the mix. Thank you so much. Well, the emotion is already running high. There are just a few people here on the grounds for the time being, but we will be seeing more through the doors as the day draws on. And it's been an emotional one as well for the veterans. Steve Humphrey has been catching up with one a little bit earlier today.
I'm with Henry Rice, who served in the Royal Navy during the Normandy landings. You just had a chance to see this for the very first time. What do you think about all of these silhouettes?
I'm gobsmacked, if that's the right word. It's so clever. dare I say, it's very theatrical. I don't know. It's fabulous. It really is. Really, really is.
As someone who served in the Royal Navy, are you picking out the sailors amongst the silhouettes?
Yes, I must confess, my eyes do tend to wander to Jack.
But they're very impressive, aren't they? And the number, I mean, it's a huge number.
Well, yeah. I don't know. They almost seem to be alive to me. They're just standing up there looking down, and I'm wondering what they're thinking actually of. There they go, yeah.
It looks as though a lot of them are deep in thought.
Yes, the way some of them are made, they are looking slightly downcast. You see, the problem is, it's one thing being a matlow. Yes, ships were sunk. Matlows were no different to the Army or the Air Force in that way. But to me, I was one of the lucky ones. You know, it's one thing just to sail from a port to Normandy, shall we say, being on a landing ship, not a landing craft. Landing craft are the guys that took soldiers in, landed them on the beaches and everything. A landing ship was too big and stayed out, did what it had to do, sort of thing.
But all of you who took part, I mean, you were all putting yourselves at risk.
Yes, I suppose so. When I say I suppose so, you know, my thoughts, because I only went over once, was half was excitement. Gosh, what's happening now, sort of thing. And the other half was a little bit afraid. What can happen? What will happen? Please God, don't let it happen. Attitudes, you know, sort of thing. But
all of the silhouettes here represent almost 1,500 people under bridge command.
Each silhouette represents a person.
A person who died on D-Day.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the number, that's pretty profound.
It is, isn't it? That's. Oh, yeah.
Does it make you feel quite sad about what happened?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does, because. Oh, yeah. I'll go away with it. They didn't, full stop. But yes, I do get quite sentimental at times. It's like, I don't know how to put it. Remembrance Day. I can't believe that Remembrance Sunday, or whichever day it is, people only remember on that specific day. I can't believe that. I mean, there's just little things suddenly, bing, and it's any day. I don't forget them. I'm so proud of them, and I'm sorry for their family and, of course, for their own lives.
One of the titles of this particular installation is For Your Tomorrow, which comes from the Kohima epitaph.
Yeah.
When you go home, tell them of us. For your tomorrow, we gave our today.
That's it.
Does that really resonate with you?
Yes, it does. Very, very much so. And that's where I think when you get a teeny prayer like that, it really should bang into people. I'm sure it does. It does to me.
Lots and lots of people are going to come here to Fort Nelson to look at this. What do you hope happens in their minds, in their hearts?
Well, in their heart, I don't know how half of them have stopped shedding a few tears. I mean, they must look at these, and once realisation dawns that in fact is a real person that was. And
There will be tears.
yes.
Thank-
I shed them gently.
I'm with Henry Rice, who served.
A powerful first-hand account, and it's incredible to still have that in play today. We are 81 years on from D-Day, and just incredible to hear those stories, those first-hand accounts. Now, people are starting to mill around a little bit more now, and they're wandering through the figures here in the parade ground, which is just a privilege, really, to be quite so up close and personal with them, to weave amongst them and be in their presence, if you like. Now, these figures have not arrived here by accident. They've taken a lot of work to get in position in exactly the right place, and a lot of manpower as well. We've got some of the volunteers with us this afternoon who made this installation come together and made it possible. Andy, tell me a little bit about your role. What were you here for to get everything together?
Well, we helped with the unloading of the sillages which the giants come in. We brought them in originally after the major sort of appeal that we went out on the TV to get. And we've unpacked them, we've cleaned them, we've put them up, and we've positioned them in the way Dan wants them, because there is a specific way he likes them. And it's just to see it now in its full glory is fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant. And as a volunteer and a part of the Standing with Giants crew, it's been absolutely brilliant to be part of it. Moving, very moving, because if you imagine each one of these figures represents a person that didn't make it on day one of D-Day. So it's very poignant to see it, and it's lovely to see people walking amongst them, because that's what it should be. It's a people's tribute to those fallen, and I feel very privileged to be part of it.
You feel the poignancy, and already we're hearing that some of the visitors are feeling that poignancy as well. And Wayne, I know that first installation that you were part of, that really struck you, didn't it?
It did, and it's the first time I've been involved in this particular installation. And working with Andy and the team, I picked up my first silhouette. And as I picked it up and carried it, I thought to myself, you know what? I feel very emotional about this, because I'm taking somebody who effectively died on day one. And then I put them down and repositioned them, and then I did the second one. And I still had that emotional with me. Several hundred into it, I wasn't quite so emotional, but it's still emotional. Putting those up and representing, each person's representing a human. I was lucky enough to actually working with Andy. We put the 1,475th one in, so I feel privileged to have done that with Andy.
So that big tally, that count of numbers, to have been the last one in place.
I felt really pleased and privileged to have done that. That was excellent.
And what was it like then to step back and see it as a whole once that final one that you helped to put in was ready and raring?
A bit of a relief, actually, because you look at it, you think, yeah, 2 weeks is a long time. We've got plenty of time, loads of volunteers. I mean, 375 volunteers, and 50 most days. But to actually get it done on the Saturday and think, yeah, we know, step back, thank you. I mean, there's still a little bit that we had to do, but it was absolutely brilliant to see it in and at the right time. You know, we had the weather with us the whole time. We had a few showers now and then, but nothing that really put you off. And some days, you know, like today, brilliant sunshine, the blue, and then seeing them gently go up around the ramparts, again, it just takes your breath away.
And to see them at different times of the day and with different cloud coverage, different weather, that must evoke different feelings and emotions for you.
It does, because when you look at them on a nice day like today, really sunny, you think, no, that's really great. And in other days, you're actually putting it in, as you say, slightly damp, but it still feels the same. You still feel as if you're actually privileged to be here, actually being part of it. and helping this installation going, because it's representing an awful lot of emotions to a lot of people.
And what would the overriding emotion be when you look back on this experience you've been part of?
I'm really pleased to have found myself here and been able to volunteer and be part of the team.
A big team effort, and how has it resonated with you?
As I said, being a Falklands veteran as well, it means a lot, because it represents, I think back to some of these as the 13 shipmates that I left down in the South Atlantic. As my ship was hit and we weren't able to bring them home, we had to bury them at sea. So they got a watery grave, and the 13 of these that I look at and go, actually, these are my shipmates. So it's very poignant for me. It brings it home hard. So it just sets me off occasionally as well. But to see people here, it's absolutely fantastic. It really is.
Thank you so much both for you to joining us today. It's been incredible to see the work that you've put in to make this possible. And it's been wonderful for the veterans as well who've been in amongst it. We're going to take a look at another account now to see exactly how it's resonated and how it's hit home.
I'm with Bert Courtney from Oxfordshire, who served in the Royal Army Service Corps during the Normandy campaign, and he was a driver hauling vital supplies of fuel from the beaches to the troops on the front line. Now, this is the first time you'll have seen these silhouettes here at Fort Nelson.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Brilliant, brilliant. I can't think of anything better, really, yeah. It certainly brings it into people's eye, and not, they won't forget it, or they shouldn't forget it, I don't think, really. They would just set up it is.
As you look round, does it sort of create certain emotions within you?
To a point, yeah. It's the trouble is in the past, so yeah. So therefore, you know, I've forgotten a lot of what happened. You know, you forget about it. But the whole thing is really a good memento for everybody to look and see and remember. Yeah.
And do you hope people will come here and it will inspire them to learn a lot about the sacrifices of your generation?
So, yeah. I think probably you got to have somebody who was involved in it, and therefore you got more interest in it. So that's the thing, you know. And of course, more and more people are dropping out.
What did you do during the Normandy campaign? I said you were a driver. What were you actually doing?
Well, just transporting there down to the beaches, fill it up, off you go, follow the DR, the bus rider, and wherever he went, you followed him. And that sometimes you were in with another half a dozen lorries, and another time you were just a couple of you. Just depending where they were taking you, where you were detailed for.
And you were transporting fuel?
Fuel all the time, yeah, petrol, yeah.
So you were driving lorries loaded with fuel through a war zone, lots of bullets and shells flying around.
No, we didn't get so close as that. No, we weren't. No, a bit further behind the line. Yeah, but it's in the distance. But so I say we didn't get too close. Yeah.
And you did that from France into Belgium, through Holland, all the way to Germany.
All the way to Germany, yeah. See, when they got through Pecan, the farther they advanced and the Germans retreated, the further we had to drive from the beaches to catch them up and supply, and then come back and do it again. So next day you were driving further than you were the day before. So it's got really hectic, you know. Yeah.
What do you think about the sacrifices of the people in your generation to liberate Europe?
Well, at times I think, was it worth it? After they see the state of the world, because they haven't learned anything from it from that day to this, I don't think, unfortunately. Yeah.
Do you think things like this are important in telling the story?
Yes, definitely, yes. Otherwise it's consigned to history and forgotten, and that's it. Yeah, as I say, there's getting quite very few of us left, so when we're gone, that's it. Nobody's got memories of it.
A poignant account of what it's like to see and reflect back on that time 81 years ago. We are at Fort Nelson here today. The newly opened installation of Standing with Giants has come into place over the last couple of weeks. Volunteers have helped to put all of these silhouette figures in place, each one of them representing one of the personnel under British command who lost their life on D-Day. And there are 1,475 of them, all unique. They've been hand-cut and they represent one of those lives lost. Steve Humphrey now is in amongst those giants. Steve.
Yeah, thank you. It is profoundly moving here at Fort Nelson. It's also very interesting seeing members of the public come in, people who are standing in front of the figures, perhaps with their own family stories of what happened in Normandy 81 years ago. And what's really nice today is that because of this glorious sunshine we've got, you can also see the shadows of the silhouettes. So that's really nice and just adds to the atmosphere. As we've said, each of these silhouettes represents a human being. The 1,475 service people who were under British command on D-Day and who made the ultimate sacrifice. People who marched into battle, flew into battle, sailed into battle in the cause of freedom. One of the really interesting things about this display, this installation, this exhibition, is that it's entitled For Your Tomorrow, which comes from the Kohima epitaph, which is also quite interesting because it brings together two things that were happening at the same time back in 1944. Because while people were preparing for D-Day here in the Portsmouth area, you could have seen it from Fort Nelson if you've been standing on the ramparts here, across on the borders of India and Burma, what's often called the Forgotten Army was also fighting a fierce engagement against the Japanese. And that famous Kohima epitaph, which is read at remembrance services across the country, is something that comes from the memorial that they put up in Kohima to all of the British and the Indian soldiers who gave their lives in that fierce battle, a battle so fierce that they were fighting across the governor's tennis court at one stage. And that epitaph goes like this. When you go home, tell them of us. For your tomorrow, we gave our today. And I think that really sums up the feeling that I'm certainly feeling at the moment as we look around here and we see people looking at this installation, everybody with their own thoughts, everybody stopping and dwelling and having those conversations. And for people, it will mean entirely different things. For young people, it'll be an introduction to history. Perhaps for middle-aged people, it'll bring back the memories of their old relatives who took part in the Second World War. And then for the veterans, the people who were there, it'll bring back the memories of the ultimate sacrifice. So as I say, I've been talking to some of the veterans this morning. They're gathered just over there at the moment enjoying the sunshine, and they've been telling me what this means to them. I'm with Henry Rice, who served in the Royal Navy during the Normandy landings. You just had a chance to see this for the very first time. What do you think about all of these silhouettes?
I'm gobsmacked, if that's the right word. It's so clever. It's, dare I say, it's very theatrical. I don't know. It's fabulous. It really is. Really, really is.
As someone who served in the Royal Navy, are you picking out the sailors amongst the silhouettes?
Yes. I must confess, my eyes do tend to wander to Jack.
But they're very impressive, aren't they? And the number, I mean, it's a huge number.
Well, yeah. I don't know. they almost seem to be alive to me. They're just standing up there looking down, and I'm wondering what they're thinking actually of there they go, yeah.
It looks as though a lot of them are deep in thought.
Yes, the way some of them are made, they are looking slightly downcast. You see, the problem is, it's one thing being a matlow. Yes, ships were sunk. Matlows were no different to the Army or the Air Force in that way. But to me, I was one of the lucky ones. You know, it's one thing just to sail from a port to Normandy, shall we say. Being on a landing ship, not a landing craft. Landing craft are the guys that took soldiers in, landed them on the beaches and everything. A landing ship was too big and stayed out. Did what it had to do, sort of thing.
But all of you who took part, I mean, you were all putting yourselves at risk.
Yes, I suppose so. When I say I suppose so, you know, my thoughts, because I only went over once, was half was excitement. Gosh, what's happening now, sort of thing. And the other half was a little bit afraid. What can happen, what will happen. Please God, don't let it happen. Attitudes, you know, sort of thing. But
all of the silhouettes here represent the, what is it, almost 1,500 people under bridge command.
Each silhouette represents a person.
A person who died on D-Day.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the number, that's pretty profound.
It is, isn't it? That's. Oh, yeah.
Does it make you feel quite sad about what happened?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Because. Oh, yeah. I'll go away with it. They didn't, full stop. But. Yes, I do get quite sentimental at times. It's like, oh gosh, I don't know how to put it. Remembrance Day. I can't believe that Remembrance Sunday, or whichever day it is, people only remember on that specific day. I can't believe that. I mean, there's just little things suddenly, bing, and it's any day. I don't forget them. I'm so proud of them, and I'm sorry for their family and, of course, for their own lives.
One of the titles of this particular installation is For Your Tomorrow, which comes from the Kohima epitaph.
Yeah.
When you go home, tell them of us. For your tomorrow, we gave our today.
That's it.
Does that really resonate with you?
Yes, it does. Very, very much so. And that's where I think when you get a teeny prayer like that, it really should bang into people. I'm sure it does. It does to me.
Lots and lots of people are going to come here to Fort Nelson to look at this. What do you hope happens in their minds, in their hearts?
Well, in their heart, I don't know how half of them have stopped shedding a few tears. I mean, they must look at these, and once realisation dawns that in fact is a real person that was, and Yeah.
There will be tears.
Yes.
Thank-
I shed them gently.
When you come in, you see them on the hill.
The veteran accounts add such precious memories to the history books because, of course, there are so few first-hand accounts of those moments left with us. So a really poignant reflection on what we have here today. This is Fort Nelson, where the newly installed Standing with Giants installation is in place. The doors here have been open for just over half an hour now, and we've got a wave of people starting to mill around, weave their way through in between these characters which are standing still, but the people weaving their way through are taking just a moment to reflect, spend some time, that solemn little moment, and ask questions and be curious. There's a school trip just working their way around on the ramparts, and you can hear lots of curious questions being asked by the school pupils to the teaching team, and I'm sure that's true right the way across the grounds. There are 1,475 of these figures, and each one represents one of the lives that was lost under British command on D-Day back in 1944. So incredibly poignant figures that we can see all the way around the site here. We're going to let you take a little bit of a look at those while we just get ready to join up with our team for BBC South Today. We will be part of the TV lunchtime news. So in the meantime, we'll let you just have a little bit of a look around the site here and these incredible silhouettes that are lining the area.
Inside the door? Yeah, ask Mark. What's the battery pack? The camera battery.
Hi, Tom. I hear you, and I hear us. Thank you. Yeah, you're overlapping each other, but I can hear you. On me, I think.
Yeah.
Jeanette. That's how I pronounce it, isn't it? Jeanette. And Lizzie. Jeanette first, Lizzie second. Thank you. About 30 seconds away from us.
So which camera were you looking at? We're
Just talk to me.
Yeah, you'll be on my camera, but just talk to Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretend there's no strange man over my shoulder. Absolutely, Tom. Yes, welcome to Fort Nelson, where we have a new skyline here of charcoal silhouettes lining the area all the way through the parade ground and all the way up around the ramparts. There are 1,475 of these silhouettes which have been created by Standing with Giants. And it's a very exciting day. The doors only opened about half an hour ago and we've been live streaming. We're still live streaming in parallel as well this lunchtime. I'm really lucky because I'm joined today by one of the organisers, Jeanette. Tell me a little bit about this installation and how precious it is.
Hi, Sarah. Well, as you mentioned, it's 1,475 silhouettes of British lives lost on D-Day on the 6th of June 1944. So every one of these silhouettes represent somebody who's lost their lives and given us our freedom that we've got today. They're handmade in Oxfordshire by our volunteers. We've all got a personal association to the installation, and it means so much to see it up today and the visitors that are having a wander around Fort Nelson. So it means a hell of a lot to us, hell of a lot today.
Incredible to see it here. Thank you so much. And it almost wasn't quite in place because it needed a new home. And Lizzie, you swung into the rescue here at Fort Nelson, didn't you?
Yeah, we saw the BBC Breakfast Appeal. We've worked with Dan and Jeanette before on the Falklands Tribute that was here in 2023, which was a great success for us. And I just sat there and thought, we could probably do this. Possibly a bit of a crazy idea at the time, but yeah, we pulled it off. And about a week later, I think it was, the Stillages arrived back from Normandy, and yeah, here we are today.
Oh, incredible. Well, the visitors already are getting a little bit of a taster for what it feels like to walk amongst them, these giants, so called because of the enormity of what they gave. We're going to be here a little while longer on the live stream, but for now we'll hand back to you in the studio. Well, that is the end of our BBC South Today lunchtime news broadcast, and we are now back on the live stream wholeheartedly. I'm joined again by Steve Humphrey. Steve, you've been having a wander through those figures. How's it been seeing the visitors just taking it all in.
It's very poignant because people are literally standing and looking, and then they're having little chats, and then they're moving around and they're turning around and looking back, because from different angles it looks very different. I mean, some occasions you're looking up and you're seeing those silhouettes against the skyline. On other occasions they're against the grass banks, and then when you go up on the embankments and look down, of course you've got this parade ground which is just full of those silhouettes, all of them representing those human beings who sacrificed their lives for us.
And we talked a little bit earlier on about the simplicity of the silhouettes. You can't see the features, you can't read their facial expressions, but the posture, the way the shoulders are carried, the head's bowed low, that tells us everything about the emotion of this, doesn't it?
And it reminded me of some of those very, very nice war memorials where you've actually got those figures of First World War soldiers, and then they're sort of slightly leaning and sort of heads bowed down over their Lee Enfield rifles. And it really is that sense that this is after the battle and they are in reflective, sombre mood.
And this ground, actually, we're just starting to see the skies change colour a little bit, and the feeling overhead is starting to change how those soldiers may have experienced what they went through on D-Day itself.
And it's interesting how the weather was one of the big component parts of D-Day. They had to go for that small little weather window, and it was, touch and go. It's postponed once, and many soldiers ended up bobbing up and down, in the waters around the Isle of Wight for 24 hours, and the seasickness and all the rest of it. So by the time they landed on the beaches, they had already been through the ringer. And of course, after D-Day, then there was that enormous storm that swept across the invasion area, and one of the big Mulberry harbours, those artificial concrete floating harbours, one of those was more or less destroyed. So the weather played a huge impact. And it's quite nice today. We've had sunshine. Now the clouds are coming in, and you really get that sense of, how changeable things were 81 years ago.
All those years ago. And you've been hearing some incredible accounts from the veterans as well. There aren't many veterans left to tell their first-hand stories.
No, and they're absolutely stunned and amazed by this. They I was going to say, they really like it because it's saying something, and hopefully it'll engage younger generations in the story of the sacrifice of young men and women back during the Second World War.
And that's certainly the ambition of the Standing with Giants charity, who hope that the stories will keep being told and keep being remembered of all of those servicemen who lost their lives and gave up so much for our future today.